Okay, if you're watching this video right now, I am willing to bet that you are wearing at least one thing that's made out of polyester. And wait, I'm not judging you. Literally right now, polyester in my workout shorts, polyester. Some of it might be recycled. I don't really remember because I've owned both of these items for a while. But in today's video, I want to talk about why we love polyester, why we wear it so much, and why maybe we should try and stop our addiction to polyester. And don't worry, we are all friends here. I'm not going to sit here and tell you to like get rid of all your polyester clothing, burn it in a bonfire. In fact, I don't want you to do that because it is literally plastic. But first things first, we are going to change outfits. By the way, if you're new here, I'm Carla. I'm an American living in London, where today it is 74 degrees, so that's why we definitely want to change outfits into something more cotton, linen vibes. But I like to talk about the environment, sustainability, fast fashion, and I also make cozy vlogs about my life living abroad and doing my cozy little hobbies like crochet, sewing, that sort of thing. So if you're interested in any of that, please do subscribe. This is actually the hottest day this week, so I'm thinking a skirt. I wore this skirt twice over the weekend, so I feel a bit silly wearing it again, but honestly, it's just a go-to. It has like all of these little eyelet cutouts in it. It's 100% cotton. It actually did have a 100% polyester lining, but I cut it out and I just wear white shorts under it. You can see where I cut it actually. Thrifted this last summer, I think, in London. Really love it. Brown tank top for the top. And then I think I'm just gonna bring my little white cotton linen shirt with me in case I wanna like cover up my shoulders, but honestly, it looks quite hot. I don't think I'm even going to need this. Remember your SPF, kids. Yeah, so you might notice that this shirt, which is like 45% linen, 55% cotton, is a bit wrinkly, and I don't own an iron or a steamer, so what do? I don't do anything, but that's because I personally don't care, but I do understand why polyester has become so popular, especially like since the 50s. This fabric freed women from having to spend, you know, hours by a hot iron, ironing their shirts, ironing their kids' shirts, ironing their husband's shirts. Of course, this is a big generalization. I'm not saying only women have ever used irons and ironing boards, but I think you get what I'm saying. Polyester is very much an innovation, like the washing machine, like the vacuum, like the dishwasher, that makes housework so much more manageable. Polyester, synthetic fibers in general, hold on to color way more easily than natural fabrics, and that makes them, you know, more color fast, meaning they won't bleed in the wash. It means the colors won't fade as quickly. It just means that they're generally easier to take care of, depending on how you look at it. I'm of the opinion that I really don't think it's difficult to spend time taking care of my cotton clothes, my wool clothes, my silk clothes. I live in the UK, so we don't really have dryers, or at least they're not commonly used, even if you do have them. And it's just a different way of life, and it's a different way of thinking. But you know, I grew up in the US where we had a washer and a dryer, and I do remember kind of thinking, oh, I'm not going to buy something of a more natural fabric like wool or silk because one, I can't afford it when I was a student or just a kid, and two, because it's hard to take care of. There have just been so many plastic-based inventions that have genuinely made our lives so much simpler as humans that we've become very reliant on them. And there is, you know, a time and a place to use them. And while I would still argue that it's worth spending like an extra 20 minutes ironing a shirt than it is to buy a plastic-based clothing item, I'm not here to judge because I also get it. We all love convenience, you know? But it's interesting because even though polyester did really change home life and the way we dress in general, it didn't really take long for people to start demonizing polyester, not for environmental reasons, but just for it being seen as something that like lower class people wear. We'll talk about things I don't like about polyester very soon, which I think I've already hinted at a lot of them. In 1982, the Wall Street Journal wrote that polyester became associated with people of low socioeconomic status who didn't have any style. And clothing companies started distancing themselves from polyester and instead using brand names for the fabric, like Trevira, Dacron, and Fortro. I definitely remember growing up in the early 2000s and the 2010s and still seeing like fashion adjacent content like America's Next Top Model, The Devil Wears Prada, or what was that dress makeover show? I can't think of it, but the woman with like the birthmark streak in her hair. That show. I definitely remember hearing like, oh, it's polyester. Oh, she wears polyester and things like that, and always being like Polyester is bad and trashy. And then realizing later on in my teen years or in my college years when I started looking at the fiber content on my clothes and seeing lots of polyester and polyamide, and especially on clothes that I did really like because the color didn't fade, they were durable, and by durable I more mean you can treat them rough without something happening, as opposed to like something like this. I'm not going to pull and tug at it, but I also don't think that it's not durable, but whatever. And 3, I could wear my sort of like cringy business casual 2010s looks without them being wrinkled and without having to actually take the time to iron anything. So polyester has always kind of gotten a bad rap, aside from when it first came out and it was just seen as this sort of like very innovative fabric that people could live more easily with. It's always been seen as something cheap, something fake, because it's a man-made fiber. But that doesn't mean that we don't use it. It's like the most popular fiber that we use and wear in the world. Polyester accounts for roughly half of the overall fiber market and around 80% of synthetics fiber, according to the Textile Exchange Preferred Fibers Material Report of 2017. If I can find some more recent stats, I will put them here, but I just assume that number has grown because it's cheap and easy to use. And that's why in the beginning of this video, I said it's quite likely that you are wearing something that is made of polyester, not because I think you are the type of person who wears polyester, but because I think all people wear polyester. As you could guess by me proudly showing my cotton linen outfit, I do try to avoid polyester, but it is something that takes a lot of effort. Sometimes it takes more money, and sometimes, yes, my clothes are going to be a bit wrinkly. This might surprise you, but when I was reading up on this the other day, I found that Patagonia is actually behind why polyester kind of got its reputation back in the fashion industry or in the textiles industry. And that's because in 1985, a materials researcher who was hired by Patagonia worked with a popular faux fur company, Malden Mills, and they ended up creating chinchilla, which I hadn't heard of chinchilla before, but I assume like if you're a Patagonia girly, you've probably heard of it. And to be fair, I do think Patagonia is a wonderful company. They're one of the fashion companies that I think is quite transparent and tries to do things the right way and does prioritize the environment. But, you know, they are behind this sort of fleece polyester revolution that put polyester back on the map for the textile industry. And also I think that all of their chinchilla fleeces are made out of recycled polyester, which is definitely a bit better than new polyester that's made from burning fossil fuels. So I just want to put those disclaimers there because I'm not saying like Patagonia sucks, like I don't think that, but they do have a role in this history of the fabric. The chinchilla was warm, but it didn't necessarily trap the heat. The fleece texture makes it so there's a bit of room in between your skin and the fabric, so even though polyester and synthetic fibers themselves aren't breathable, like just millimeter of distance between the fabric and the skin made it so there's still the opportunity for you to feel cool, for you to not feel like damp from your own sweat, and to get some circulation going. And today the chinchilla fleece is still seen as like the most iconic Patagonia garment that you can get. It is very quintessentially Patagonia, and I'm like 90% sure that it is the exact same fleece that so many other brands use, like the Denali jacket by the North Face. Of course there's going to be variations because they formulate their textiles differently, but I would assume that the concept is like pretty much the same. Polyester is most useful for these sort of utilitarian garments like activewear, outerwear, and you know, there are benefits. As I showed you earlier, I was wearing a workout set that was completely polyester and elastane, but what did we do before? We ran and we worked out in cotton, and honestly, it's fine. I don't think there's any use in throwing out all of your polyester garments, especially if they are working perfectly fine for you. But in the future, when, you know, those eventually wear out or they don't fit anymore, I will donate them if I can, and hopefully get something that's made out of a more sustainable alternative, or recycled polyester, which I think companies like Patagonia do, And the Girlfriend Collective, I know, uses recycled water bottles, things like that. And if I'm running, I don't mind wearing some of my wool thermals in the winter. Like, that's perfectly fine with me. Or a bit of cotton. Obviously that sucks in the rain, but I don't know. It's not really that bad. Try it out. But regardless, with Patagonia's innovation, polyester became a staple, especially for active apparel. And since then, polyester's popularity lives on because it's cheap, baby. That is the #1 reason why. According to earthday.org, polyester is the most cost-effective fabric for fashion brands to use, and it costs half as much per kilo as cotton. The cheap material, along with the low wages of garment industry workers, means companies continue to produce polyester clothing because it is most profitable to do so. It really is as simple as that. So while it is, economically the most sustainable option, which you could argue that that's not even the case because it's made out of non-renewable resources and eventually companies will have to reckon with that, polyester is most definitely not a sustainable material to use from an environmental standpoint. So I'm going to get outside and enjoy nature, and we're going to talk about the environmental impact that polyester can have on it. This is the exact outfit formula you will see me wearing all spring and summer, which is crazy to say because before this I used to have so much trouble dressing for the warmer months. I just never felt cute or stylish and comfortable at the same time, so that's definitely another benefit, but we'll get into the other benefits right now. So we finally made it to the park. I brought a kombucha with me. Love this stuff. I just got it from Sainsbury's. And I want to chat a little bit about polyester and the environment. Let's see if we can do some ASMR can opening though. Gorgeous sounds, I hope. So polyester, as I said earlier, is a type of plastic, and the chemicals that are used to make polyester are derived from petroleum, what you and I might just refer to as gas. This is also from earthday.org. It is estimated 342 million barrels of oil are used for producing plastic-based fibers each year. Obviously, petroleum, and referring to it as oil or a fossil fuel or a gas, we are talking about the same thing. We're talking about a fossil fuel that is bad for the environment, that is completely man-made, and that when burned releases tons of carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is itself a greenhouse gas, and just to define greenhouse gases, those are gases, obviously, which get trapped in the atmosphere and eventually lead to climate change, they heat up our planet. And the burning of fossil fuels, which you have to burn fossil fuels to make new polyester and new synthetic fibers, can cause health issues like asthma, cancer, heart disease, premature death, you name it. It's both not good for our health and not good for the environment, which I would argue are always linked, but, we can argue about that. Another thing about polyester, aside from the fossil fuel issue, is the fact that it does not biodegrade. So, let's say the shirt was made out of plastic. Obviously, that plastic isn't just going to biodegrade because it's not bio at all. It is completely man-made. It's not going to just disintegrate into the earth unless we incinerate it or burn it, and that's not good because it would release even more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So yeah, polyester doesn't degrade, but when it sheds, it does shed microfibers, which in this case are microplastics because the fabric itself is plastic. I'm not going to get too much into microfibers in this video, at all, because it's something that's just starting to be more heavily researched now, but you can imagine that it's not looking good what we're finding at the moment. And that was a pained laugh, not I actually think it's funny laugh. And you might be wondering well, if polyester is really durable, surely you can just keep it forever. And it's yeah, you could, but the production of it is still incredibly harmful. Production of anything new is harmful to the environment, And realistically, the way that fast fashion works and trend cycles work, you're not going to wear that polyester garment forever because you probably got it for really cheap. It might not be very well made. You might not even like it in a few weeks, in a year, in a few years. It might eventually not fit you. Maybe no one in your family wants it as a hand-me-down. Let's be realistic. You're probably not going to wear it forever. And also, just from washing it again and again, because polyester
kind of needs to be because it smells more quickly, which I'll get into later, and also just because you can wash it so frequently, eventually like these microplastics are getting into the ocean. And in fact, it is estimated that over a third of all the plastic in our waters come from washing synthetic clothing. Over a third. And we know that there's a lot of plastic in the ocean and in our waterways. Okay, so if you're bored of the sort of science lecture, I also just want to get into some of my personal beefs with polyester and synthetic clothing in general, and they are all related to each other and like cause each other, if that makes sense. So first off is the fact that polyester clothing is not breathable. Like, you know, that's why your activewear might have little vents in it, might be kind of meshy in places, because polyester is really good for performance wear, but it's not good for actually letting your skin breathe. And as a result, it definitely gets smellier more quickly. It's not like a cotton t-shirt or a silk shirt or a wool jumper, where honestly, like, yes, you should wash those items, but if you just like let them air out a bit, you're gonna get rid of a lot of that smell. Let it sit in the sun for a bit, like, I don't know, they're just natural, and you can look up how to take care of them, and oftentimes it does not necessarily involve washing as the first step. But anyways, because they smell more quickly, you have to wash them more often, which, you know, costs the earth but also costs you money in your water bills. And this in turn can lead to skin problems for some people as well, either from the synthetic fabrics themselves or from the need to wash them so often, and then the detergent is like messing with your skin. I actually think it's kind of funny sometimes when I'm looking for like 100% cotton or other natural fiber clothing. I always see this one website called eczema clothing or something like that for eczema, and I don't really have eczema, but it just goes to show that people who do have skin problems or who have sensitive skin tend to want to wear natural fibers, because synthetic fibers, for some reason or the other, are like irritating their skin issues, or maybe even causing them. I don't know. I also want to just acknowledge, if I didn't earlier already today, the fact that it does take extra time and effort to look for natural fibers. That time and effort can result in you not finding anything, because a lot of stores will make it difficult to find something that is 100% cotton, wool, silk, etc. Or the price will maybe reflect the fact that it is of higher quality and that it is less profitable for the company for them to produce that specific item. And just a disclaimer that, yeah, cotton production, wool production, silk production, all of these fibers have their issues. And again, like I said, creating anything new has an impact on the environment. I just personally am of the opinion that creating something synthetic and new is far worse than any of that. So that's my take on the topic. But anyways, I think I'm just going to enjoy the sun and stop yapping for a bit, and I'll check in with you later. Okay, so we're back from the park, and I just want to end with some like tangible points of advice, or like things you can actually do to sort of address this issue of overconsumption of polyester fabrics and clothing. The most obvious thing is to limit your shopping. So shopping less, prioritizing shopping secondhand, and then when you can, even at secondhand stores, still checking the fabric composition of the items you're buying. Obviously, if you see a polyester garment in a thrift shop / charity shop that you really love and you think you'll wear for ages, like, go for it. You buying it from a secondhand store is going to be better than it ending up in landfill, but you might not want to buy synthetic fibers even if they're secondhand if you care about some of the other reasons I listed. But of course, like, if you think you're going to get a lot of wear out of something, go for it. You know, nothing is going to be perfect when it comes to shopping for clothes. So we can shop secondhand, we can shop slow, meaning like not giving into trend cycles, micro trends, figuring out your own personal style that actually helps you to be more sustainable because you know what you like and what you'll actually get wear out of, as opposed to jumping on random trends or even just like things that you don't like on your personal body type. Checking labels, and a somewhat underrated one, taking care of the clothes that you already have. Checking the care labels, you know, not just to see what they're made out of, but how you should be washing them. If you can maybe just let them air out from time to time, put them in the sun. Getting to know your clothes and
taking care of them actually makes you feel like, I don't know, like you have more agency in your clothing, which might sound dramatic, but if you're someone like me, maybe that will help you to understand why caring for your clothes can just like feel empowering in a way. But of course, so much of this is up to the large companies that we all know and sometimes love. These are all very individual choices and actions, but hopefully these individual habits can lead to collective action and show the fashion industry that we as consumers do care about the environment and want better choices, and that we are going to hold them to a higher standard. Anyways, I think that's where I'm going to leave you today. Drop your favorite sustainable brands in the comments section, or your favorite like thrift store, charity shop, because we could all use some recs, you know? I hope you enjoyed this little commentary video. As always, thank you so much for being here, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!